The book of Revelation should not be taken literally. Instead, it encourages readers to explore its allegorical stories and intricate symbols, adding depth to its profound message. An allegory is a form of art or literature where elements represent abstract ideas or morals, often conveying hidden meanings or lessons through stories or visuals, commonly found in various different works. For example, Israel in the Bible is metaphorically compared to a prostitute, but it's important to note that it's not a literal description. Instead, this analogy is used to illustrate the complex relationship between the Most High and Israel. One common error in trying to understand the book of Revelation is toggling between a literal and allegorical interpretation. To truly understand Revelation, our approach must stay consistent throughout. So let's read Revelation chapter 12, verse 4. And he drew a third part of the stars of heaven and did cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it was born. The stars, the earth, and the dragon in this verse should not be taken literally. To understand the allegorical meaning, how do we go about it? Well, the traditional interpretation associates this verse with the fall of Satan and his angels from heaven. This theory suggests that the dragon's tail drew a third part of the stars, represents Satan, leading a third part of the angels in rebellion against Elohim, resulting in their expulsion or extradition from heaven. Although this sounds plausible to your ear when you first hear it, you should try to confirm its true meaning. To properly understand this, we have to go back to the beginning and start up from the top of the chapter. Revelation chapter 12, verse 1. And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. These 12 stars, 1/3 of them, were thrown to the earth. The significance of the 12 stars is that they represent the 12 tribes of Israel, making it evident that the woman symbolizes Israel in this context. To confirm this, let's read Genesis chapter 37, verse 9. And he dreamed yet another dream. This is Joseph and his dreams that he dreamed, and he told it to his father. Genesis chapter 37, verse 9. And he dreamed yet another dream and told it to his brethren and said, Behold, I dreamed a dream more, and behold, the sun and the moon and the 11 stars made obeisance to me, meaning that they bowed down to him. And he told it to his father and to his brethren, and his father rebuked him and said unto him, What is this dream that thou hast dreamed? Shall I and thy mother and thy brethren indeed come to bow down ourselves to thee to the earth? In this verse, Joseph shared the dream with his father Jacob and his brothers. Jacob, interpreting the symbols, understands that the sun represents him, the moon represents his mother, and the 11 stars represents Joseph's brothers, or the nation of Israel. Once you understand in Revelation that the woman with the 12 stars is Israel, what does it mean that 1/3 of the stars, or 1/3 of Israel, was cast to the earth? Let's go to the history. Let's go to Daniel chapter 8, starting with verse 8. And we're going to kind of skip through this a little bit, but you will get the idea. The goat waxed very great, and when he was strong, the great horn was broken, for it came up 4 notable horns towards the 4 winds of heaven. And out of one of them came forth a little horn, which waxed exceeding great towards the south, and towards the east, and towards the pleasant land. And it waxed great even to the host of heaven, and it cast down some of the host of the stars to the ground, and stamped upon them. In chapter 8, a vision of a ram and a goat represents the Median, Persian, and Greek empires. The goat's great horn symbolizes Alexander the Greek, who, upon his sudden death, sees his empire divided to 4 generals. From one of these divisions emerges the little horn, representing Antiochus IV Epiphanes of the Seleucid Empire, known for his severe persecution of the Israelites and desecration of the temple in Jerusalem. Now let's explain verse 10, the stars were cast to the ground. Daniel chapter 8 verse 16, and I heard a man's voice between the banks of Ulai, which called and said, Gabriel, make this man to understand the vision. Let's jump down to verse 21. And the rough goat is the king of Grecia, and the great horn that is between his eyes is the first king. Now that being broken, whereas 4 stood up for it, 4 kingdoms shall stand up out of the nation, but not in his power. And in the later time of the kingdom, when the transgressors are come to full, a king of fierce countenance and understanding dark sentences shall stand up, and his power shall be mighty, not by his own power, and he shall destroy wonderfully, and shall prosper, and practice, and shall destroy the mighty and holy people. In Daniel 8, verse 16, a voice instructs the angel Gabriel to help Daniel understand the vision. Daniel, verse 25, identifies a rough goat as representing the king of Greece, which is the prominent horn, symbolizing its first king, understood as Alexander the Greek. Upon his death, 4 kingdoms will emerge from the Greek Empire, but without the same power as Alexander. In the later era of these kingdoms, a formidable king known for his perplexing sayings will arise, referencing Antiochus IV Epiphanes, which will have immense power and will devastate and oppress, particularly targeting the Israelite people of that time. This story is explicitly told in the book of Maccabees. Let's compare these 3 verses so we can perfectly see what the stars represent and the fact that they were cast to the ground. Revelation 24 says, "And his tail drew a third part of the stars of heaven, and did cast them to the ground." Daniel chapter 8 verse 10 says, "And it waxed great even to the hosts of heaven, and it cast down some of the host of the stars to the ground, and stamped upon them." Verse 24 says, "And his power shall be mighty, not by his own power, and he shall destroy wonderfully, and prosper, and practice, and shall destroy the mighty and the holy people." Revelation mentions stars. Daniel verse 10 also references stars, while in Daniel verse 24 it mentions the holy people. While mysticism and intrigue are intriguing, the Bible message is not overly complex. It's primarily about the Most High and a relationship with his people. Although angels and demons play roles, the core focus remembers on the Most High and his people. The stars thrown down is explaining that the Most High has turned his back on his people. Now let's explain the 1/3 will be thrown down to the ground, because Revelation says 1/3 of Israel. This will explain the confusion that Hebrew Israelites have believing that 1/3 of Israel will be saved. Ezekiel, starting with chapter 5 verse 1. "And thou, son of man, take thee a sharp knife, take thee a barber's razor, and cause it to pass upon thine head, and upon thy beard, and take thee balances to weigh, and divide the hair. Thou shalt burn with a fire 1/3 part in the midst of the city. When the days of siege are fulfilled, thou shalt take a 3rd part, and smite about it with a knife, and a 3rd part thou shalt scatter in the wind, and I will draw out a sword after them." Burn with fire symbolizes the portion of the inhabitants of Jerusalem that will be consumed by famine and pestilence during the siege of the Babylonians. Smite a 3rd part with a knife represents those who will die in the city by the sword during the siege. Scatter a 3rd part into the wind. This indicates that a portion of the inhabitants will be scattered into slavery. Although they did not die, they would suffer. In Revelation, the reference to the 1/3 of the stars being cast down to the earth symbolizes the Israelites' descent into slavery. This punishment stems from their disobedience to the Most High's commandments. Ezekiel chapter 5 verse 7. "Therefore thus saith the Most High thy Elohim, because ye multiplied more than the nations that are round about you, and have not walked in my statutes, neither have you kept my judgments, neither have you done according to the judgments of the nations that are round about you. Therefore thus saith the Most High thy Elohim, behold, I, even I, am against thee, and I will execute judgments in the midst of thee in the sight of the nations. And I will do in thee which I have not done, and whereunto I will not do any more the like, because of all thine abominations. Therefore the fathers shall eat the sons in the midst of thee, and the sons shall eat their fathers, and I will execute judgments in thee, and the whole remnant of thee will I scatter into all winds." Verses 6 through 10, Elohim condemns Jerusalem for not only failing to follow his commandments, but also for exceeding the sins of the neighboring nations. As a result, Elohim declares a severe judgment against Jerusalem, emphasizing its unprecedented nature. The judgment includes intense famine, symbolized by the distressing imagery of cannibalism, and ends with the dispersion of Jerusalem's survivors. This verse serves as a stark warning about the dire consequences of abandoning Elohim's commandments. Now let's continue reading, going to verse 11. Ezekiel chapter 5 verse 11. "Wherefore as I live, says the Most High, surely because thou hast defiled my sanctuary with all thy detestable things, and with all thine abominations, therefore I will diminish thee, neither shall my eye spare, neither will I have pity. A 3rd part of thee shall die with the pestilence, and with the famine shall they be consumed in the midst of the city, and a 3rd part shall fall by the sword round about thee, and I will scatter a 3rd part into all the winds, and I will draw out a sword after them." In Ezekiel chapter 5 verse 11 and 12, Elohim declares his judgment on Jerusalem due to the grave idolatry and the desecration of his sanctuary. As punishment, Elohim proclaims 3 calamities. 1/3 goes to disease and famine. 1/3 will fall by the sword. 1/3 will be scattered into slavery. Elohim emphasizes the severity of the judgment, noting that he will not show mercy nor pity due to their abominations. Ezekiel chapter 5 verse 13. Thus my anger shall be accomplished, and I will cause my fury to rest upon them, and I will be comforted, and they shall know that I, the Most High, have spoken in my zeal, when I have accomplished my fury in them. Moreover, I will make thee waste, and a reproach among the nations that are round about thee, in the sight of all that pass by. So it shall be a reproach, and a taunt, an instruction, and an astonishment unto all the nations that are round about thee, when I shall execute judgments in thee in anger and in fury, and in furious rebukes. I, the Most High, have spoken it. When I shall send upon thee evil arrows of famine, which shall be for their destruction, which I will send to destroy you. I will increase famine upon you, and I will break your staff of bread. So I will send upon you famine and evil beast, and they shall bereave thee, and pestilence and blood shall pass through thee. I will bring a sword upon thee. I, the Most High, have spoken it. Elohim declares that his anger will be fully realized upon Jerusalem due to their sins. Once his fury is executed, he will find solace knowing his judgments were just. The consequences will serve as a clear sign to all nations that Elohim has acted decisively against Jerusalem's transgressions. The city will become desolate and even be seen as a disgrace by the neighboring races. Elohim's judgment, marked by extreme famine, predatory wild animals, disease, and warfare, will be so severe that Jerusalem will become a warning and a source of shock for all who witness its downfall. All these actions reaffirm the sovereignty and the determination of Elohim's decisions. In summary, the symbolism of the 1/3 of the stars falling to the ground in Revelation represent the Israelites' descent into a lowly state in life, often relegated to roles of caretaking for the wealthy, holding low positions in corporations, making very little money or no money at all. The predicament is a result of our forefathers and for our transgressing the Most High and his commandments. Some people claim that the commandments have been abolished, which ironically serves to keep the Israelites in a state of bondage. It's worth noting that one of the punishments for violating the Most High's commandments was severe hunger to the point of consuming one's own children. However, now the commandments are considered abolished, which is completely crazy. So that's it for today. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.